I was frazzled in a way I've never been. And I know a lot of people are afraid to say some of those things, but when you have 20-hour days, and I do think about it, even if you're trying to go to sleep, you're like, okay, what's the ramification of this? How do I actually structure my argument? What am I looking at? Did I actually read what I just read? I was talking to a member on the floor who's, I think it's his second or third term. He goes, you know, Denver, he goes, you come up here thinking everything's black and white, right? These votes are so easy. But what happens on these roll-up bills or these omnibus bills, or even, sometimes what you think is a simple bill, if you're in the minority, you have things that are good, but most of the things are bad. So you're trying to balance, what your vote's going to be, so it gets very gray. I think that's the thing you realize when you get up here is that a lot of these roll-up bills, you're not voting on just one thing, right? There could be things snuck in there. So if you have even a small bill, you got to make sure that you're on it and your staff's on it to make sure you're covering everything. And I think that's been one of my biggest surprises, is that really this is sausage. Yeah, you keep your values, you look at the Constitution, you do those things that you got to do, but there's a lot of sausage that's going to be made if you're going to try to lead something. Everybody's like, oh, you're just getting whipped for a vote. No, it's all of that, and then you have to sort of take yourself above with the whip of the vote and say, okay, what's best in the Constitution, right? What's best for my district? What's best for my conscience? And I think those are the three things you really got to dig into when you're trying to do these votes. And sometimes you got to make sausage. I don't think it's Republican or Democrat bill, it's a sausage bill. I absolutely hate, that there's so many roll-ups and so many sort of hidden pills in so many of these bills that you actually have to dig through it, right? It's like, you're digging through a compost pile, right? Looking for the quarter that you actually throw in the trash. And I think that's what you're looking for. But it is really tough. And I think that's the thing I appreciate is those who have been able to do it well and to maintain their integrity. Really, it's really incredible that people are able to do that. Everything I've done in my life, I've really had to probably work a little bit harder than everybody else. And since you're new, there are times I've been sitting here at 10 p.m. and they build these binders for me. I wish I could just give you an example, but it's about, no kidding, it's probably about, well, this is all our reading stuff they put on my desk today. I love my staff. It's sort of in some kind of chronological order, right? So you're looking at, you see all the manila folders in here. Then they'll have a big old, another folder or a binder that has all the things I put it in sponsored, and actually it is to spark my memory. And if anybody says you remember all the bills, absolute hogwash. That is crap. There's no way. I got to tell you, there's some nights you're looking at this and it's quiet, and you're looking around and the buzzer's going off still for some reason because I think the clock's broken. And, you're looking around and you're still in awe, you're making laws, and they might not get through if you're in the minority, but you're making laws.
Now you're looking at the House floor where Democrats just rebuked President Trump with a vote that would overturn his, quote, national emergency declaration, using money and resources for something that many have said is simply, quote, not an emergency.
And my first initial thing was, okay, what do I want to do? What's the Constitution say? And wrapped in that is what is statute, what is code law, what is precedent, what has been put down. And I will tell you this, and many, many people immediately are like, gosh, we just don't want to do this. But looking at the since 1976 with the National Emergencies Act, but also with the precedent set prior. I mean, we had a national emergency on swine flu.
We are closely monitoring the emerging cases of swine flu in the United States. The Department of Health and Human Services has declared a public health emergency as a precautionary tool to ensure that we have the resources we need at our disposal to respond quickly and effectively.
You have this internal argument over, statute law, what seems sort of the preponderance of evidence. But with me, I had one other issue. The issue just wasn't Constitution or statute law. It's also, was this a national emergency? And I have a background in security that a lot of people don't have. And when you receive a briefing from somebody that's close to you in the military, in the congressional offices, and you know exactly what's going on there, you got to make a decision like, yes, is it legal for a national emergency? Is it actually a national emergency? And if you have these belief systems, you got to sort of balance that with the Constitution. I ended up voting no. And the reason I voted no is really based on my experience in security, also in statute, and also my belief that from what Congress has done since '76, it was legal. But we are looking at a staff right now is actually putting in a bill to try to roll back the powers of the Emergency Act. I think it's time. And I think that was in my first 8 weeks, the hardest vote I had to take. And it was actually wrenching to take that. I had somebody yesterday, which I was really flattered. They said, Denver, the bags under your eyes have grown. I'm like, well, thank you. You know, that's very, very nice of you to say. Being somebody who doesn't have the lineage or the experience in politics, and if you're looking at it just on its face, just on facts, you sometimes come to conclusions you don't like. And then guess what? As a lawmaker, based on what I can do under my Article I powers, I can change that. And I do believe you're going to see a bill that I either sponsor or I lead that's going to do something with that act, because I think at some point we have to take back congressional powers, but also honor the separation of powers that was so important to the constitutional process.
Last time when we were here, when you got sworn in, you said basically you're here and you're going to do what you feel is right.
Yeah.
And if you have to go back to the distillery, no big deal.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that way?
No. I mean, I still get to go back to the distillery with my wife and kids, who I miss dearly, and it's been rough because they sort of have flashbacks to when I deployed in the military, and they miss me, even at their older ages now. They miss me. Yeah, I can still go back to the distillery, but now looking at the fight that we're in now, yeah, I mean, I think you get into the fight, and even though it's frappid miserable. You're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning like Rocky and running, chasing chickens. You know, you almost feel like you have to fight. And I think it's just part of it's like the military thing. When you first deploy, you're like, eh. But when you're 3 or 4 weeks in and the war's on, you want to finish it. So I like to finish this. And I don't know when that is. I would say, though, that again, I'm still not going to vote the way people just want me to get reelected. I think I have to still hate politics. I got to vote my conscience in my district and the Constitution, as I said, and I still can't be afraid to lose. And that's one thing, I've never been afraid to lose. So if I lose, I lose. I go back to my distillery, great. I got a chance to serve, but I'd like to finish this.
What's finishing it look like?
I think finishing this is, for me, I think it's getting back to a place in our Congress where we're back to common sense. We're making laws that aren't this bipartisan. But it's really about the fight that we have against what I think is this new breed of, this new left of a governance that absolutely terrifies me as an American. And I think maybe I've been, and I don't want to use that word, but I think freedom and liberty, which I thought was near and dear to me, I don't think I've ever felt as strong about it as I do now.